I'd like to go ahead and call this work session to order, and thank you all for being here. There are, basically our topic tonight is eminent domain and how that works. One of the issues that came up in the Jordan Davis report was that because the city is very well known for not pursuing condemnation in any way, shape, or form, that is what contributed to our cost overruns and our timeline delays. And so what I'd like to do, because we are so well known for being a city that will never consider condemnation as a tool in our toolbox in transportation projects, I'd, number one, like to have the conversation so that we all clearly understand what condemnation is, how it's used, why it's appropriate, and then we'll just open it up for discussion. So, David, would you like to go first and give us an overview?
So basically, condemnation would be taking some private person's property for fair market value. That's just boil it down to the easiest way. For transportation purposes, it's usually going to be for roads, for sidewalks. You can also condemn for parks, for economic development purposes. There's various reasons to condemn. It's a tool that can be used to help negotiations. It's also a tool that can be used to save money. It can be used to clear title, which is an issue a lot of times in a historic area where property has been passed down through the ages. You can condemn over the top to clear the title and get clear title from the court. It's a very useful tool. The last time that I remember the city actually authorizing us to condemn anything or even consider condemning anything was in 2008. Since that time, there was many instances in committee meetings with former councils where the mayor would state that the city of Roswell doesn't condemn. Staff would say, we know it's the policy of the city not to condemn. When that happens, it leads into issues, and the best example I can give is if somebody came to your house and said, well, I'm going to come and I'm going to buy your front yard all the way up to your front door. And I have a fair market value of that of $20,000. Here's your $20,000. Now let's negotiate. Your first answer is going to be, no, I don't want to. I like my front yard. If you knew that there was no condemnation, then you're going to say, well, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to take my whole property. I want $500,000 for my house, and my house might appraise for $250,000. But because I'm not the one that's interested in moving, but you're the one that's trying to take my property, I'm going to ask for more than it's actually worth. So when you get into a situation where you do not have condemnation as a tool, and the other side knows that, then you are going to pay a lot more. It does not benefit the public. It actually hurts the public. And it basically can kill a project. There's different ways to do condemnation in Georgia. For transportation projects, there's a set out way to do that, which is, set out in the Jordan Davis findings. Some of those we were not following. That was an error on our part. However, with the staff knowing that we weren't going to condemn, I think the intent was to go straight into negotiations. With the transportation for road purposes, you simply start your negotiation at the appraised value. You need this, here's the appraised value, this is what we're willing to offer you. The person can take it if they don't want to take it. If there's other damages that might come other than taking just the property, they'll argue that. there's a cost of filing a condemnation, so a lot of times it'll be fair market value plus a little more if you're going to have to go to court. But that individual or business is free to get an appraisal of their property also. If the council agrees with that, or the council sticks with their appraisal, basically what happens is you file a condemnation proceeding, you put the money in the court, and the court gives you an order stating that the property that you're condemning is yours, and the project continues. The person whose property you're taking, they can argue over the money in court, but you have the property and the project proceeds, so there's no delays. That was obviously not the case on our project, but it's the right way to do it. There's a reason that it's set up like that. You can argue over the money, and if you lose, you're going to pay. If you succeed, then the project's already complete probably by the time you get done with the court case now with COVID. For park properties or other properties as such, there's a method where we would get an appraisal, the property owner would get an appraiser, and they would pick a third appraiser. And what those appraisers come up with the value of the property, that's what you pay. That's not for transportation. It can be used for transportation projects, but that's at the discretion of the council. Our charter provides that we can condemn property inside or outside the corporate limits of the city for present or future use and for any corporate purpose deemed necessary by the governing authority, utilizing procedures enumerated in Title 22 of OCGA and other such laws as it may be enacted. That's in our charter. So for us to have the mentality or the unwritten policy that we can't condemn, I think is an error. And all this resolution does is give us the ability to have that option. It doesn't require us to condemn anything. It just gives us the option to condemn. And that would be after negotiations and such. And I think this is something that's needed for clarification of the city's position.
Well, and that's why I'm bringing it forward as a resolution, because of our history, for us just to say, well, we'll support condemnation in transportation projects, it doesn't really send the right message. So I'm presenting this to you this evening. I'm going to take it to council on December 13th for a vote, and you all just let me know what your wishes are, and if you have any questions for staff, please ask away, discuss away. Yes, Councilmember Palermo.
So just to be, this all certainly makes sense. To be clear, what's being brought at the December 13th meeting is a resolution or new policy or what exactly?
Resolution. The copy that you've got in your packet. Additional questions? Concerns? Yes.
Yeah, I do have a question.
Yes.
So typically when there is cost associated with the condemnation, the cost of the property, is that typically budgeted for the project prior to going into it and doing the condemnation? So for instance, if there is, to give you some negotiating room, and then if there is a future lawsuit or something, that's something that the budget needs to handle. It needs to be handled by the city budgets and covered by that.
So it takes into, usually the budgets take into account certain dollar amounts for acquisition of property.
Right.
That could involve condemnations or not, depending on what it entails. If it's going to be a taking of a full business, probably not going to be totally accurate with the estimates there, but if it's just taking 4 or 5 feet of right-of-way, that's probably going to be a little bit different. That will be contemplated in there.
Right.
As far as the cost, our legal fees are, we work for salary, so we're not charging by the hour. It's just for cost.
Right. So those property fees and condemnation fees should be considered up front in the transportation project or whatever project is you're going through with the negotiation for. So that is ultimately, goes back to the taxpayer at any
Correct.
point, so, okay. All right, great, thank you.
Additional comments, questions? Well, I think that was the shortest work session in history. So yes, this resolution will be on the agenda on December 13th. And like I said, I think that it's only appropriate because we've had such a strong stance in history with not allowing condemnation that we come up publicly saying that we accept this as a tool in our toolbox, not necessarily that we're going to use it in every case, but that we, the city of Roswell, consider it as a tool that we may need to use. We're adjourned.